Come and dream with me.
Hello and welcome to What Do You Want to Watch, the Explosion Network's premier media podcast. Every fortnight we get together to talk about movies, TV and online content and help you answer the question, was Goatee really the best film of the year? No, it wasn't. I'm your host, Ashley Hobley. Joining me today, this special episode, is Dylan Blight.
That's the fastest you've ever answered the question you've proposed in the intro, I think.
Because there's no point in keeping people in suspense.
Fair enough.
We know it was a lie. And Nicholas Pryor.
Did they make a movie out of Goatsy?
No, didn't you hear about that terrible John Travolta movie?
No.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we talked about it on the show, about how people have... They were faking reviews.
Nick could be like, I was here. Doesn't mean I talked about it.
All right, let's jump straight into it because we got a lot to cover this episode. We're going to be covering our top 10 movies and films of 2018, or in Nick's case, top 5s. But we have watched a lot of stuff in the last fortnight. First thing first, let's talk about Aquaman, the second coming of the DCU universe. It's going to save everybody. It's great. I love it. Dylan, you love it just as much, right?
Horrible movie.
Oh, what? Oh.
Not as big as a disappointment for me as Creed 2, because I had that more on a higher pedestal. I did, if you go back and listen to episode 1 or 2 of What Do You Want to Watch, when we was going over the year's 2018's movies, I'm pretty sure I was like, yeah, this could be really, really good. It has the potential to be great. I have high hopes, like James Wan, good director, I like all these movies, blah, 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 blah. I was so fucking bored. I could have fallen asleep.
Okay. I really enjoyed it. I thought I had a lot of fun. I mean, Jason Momoa is like a man.
He is a man, yeah. That's the thing.
I thought it was interesting how they handled Black Manta, as sort of set him up as an enemy created by Aquaman, sort of. Although he was a bad dude before that. I know it's super CGI heavy, and it was like, some of it's not great, but I thought it was very creative in the same way Wakanda's kind of... I can't help but see the parallels between Black Panther and Aquaman. Obviously not to the same quality standard.
Like, what did Black Panther do? We got to do that now.
Yep, except the opposite.
Except to do everything worse.
Aquaman is the Killmonger character.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
It's just... The script was bad. Straight up, it was bad. The story, the main villain is not super interesting, and then you've got Black Manta over here as like a side character villain who's set up to then potentially be the main villain for the second film, of course. That's how that all goes. But none of those characters are super interesting. I didn't even find Black Manta that interesting or even imposing. Like, he's a big dude, sure, but he didn't come off as super smart or anything like that kind of makes him an interesting villain. The best scene in the movie is slight spoilers, I suppose. Well, if you say a fucking trailer, it's not the spoiler at all. Is when like Aquaman and Mera, they're like walking around this city on the land, and just you get to see Mera just seeing normal land life stuff, and it's all... I was like, cool, I just wanted this for 90 minutes. I would have just taken Aquaman and Mera just exploring the land dwellers' land and like her experiencing that and stuff like that. But then anything to do with Aquaman's journey to become a hero and all this sort of fucking gibberish, jerk, whatever. But also, and anything to do with Atlantis itself, no. Like, sure, they and also they do kind of pull off them talking underwater, but I could not understand them half the time, or struggled, or really had to like prick my ears up to be able to understand them, because I feel like they still kind of wanted it to sound like they were speaking underwater, which makes sense, of course, but then I felt like the audio was too...
Maybe that was your cinema. I never had a problem hearing them talk underwater.
Don't blame my fucking cinema, Ash. There's nothing wrong with my cinema. Don't blame this movie's trash on my cinema.
So if Black Manta wasn't the villain, who was?
Prince Orm?
Yeah,
or Ocean Master.
Yeah, so it's Aquaman's
Patrick Wilson's player.
Step brother.
Half brother.
Yeah. Half brother, that's it. Played by what the fuck is it?
Patrick Wilson.
Patrick Wilson, who was terrible.
He didn't have much to do.
He was trying so hard to be evil bad guy, but I'm like, you're Patrick Wilson, and I don't buy this at all. I cannot get past it. I'm like, no.
But Dylan, they were riding giant sharks and seahorses and crabs, and there were crab people, and there was mermaid people, and then they had the trench, and I loved it. I had a really good time. I don't think it's like the thing I thought of is, you know what this reminds me of? Fast and the Furious.
No.
Yep. Very similar.
This has been destined to fail because there's nothing cool about Under the Water.
Yeah, the one thing I've noticed with this movie is I have seen a lot of people. I'm in the minority, I think, because most people I've seen.
Yes, surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, most people I've seen being like, Aquaman's a fun popcorn movie, blah 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 blah. But a lot of those people I see saying that hate on like Batman v Superman and Man of Steel and like Zack Snyder's first efforts into DC universe, of course. When I just feel like I want something completely different or whatever, because I quite like Man of Steel. I like BVS.
You just wanted them to turn
the
brightness down.
Well, look,
they'll fix it.
No, there's just something like with those movies, with the Zack Snyder DC universe that was being set up. He was trying to do, as much as I don't think those movies are perfect or anything, he was trying to do something that was at least different, and it stood apart to Marvel. That's for sure. None of those movies could be compared to Marvel. This movie is just trying to be any other superhero movie and fit into the Marvel way of doing superhero movies, but it doesn't do it anywhere near as good, which just makes it feel like a really crappy popcorn movie, and I don't like it. And I would have preferred them to just keep trying to do something that was at least different, because now they're just doing Marvel but bad. And that's you could do a bad movie and be different to Marvel, and I'd still be like, well, at least you kind of tried. But it's just like you're trying to do Marvel, you're doing it bad, and I'm bored. So fuck off.
No, it was good.
Friend of the show, Buddy, didn't like it either.
Well, he's Buddy. No, I don't know. It is just interesting that probably the most popular of the DCU ones are now the two most colourful ones, Wonder Woman and Aquaman. It's just Zack Snyder, you're just too dark.
I like Wonder Woman. I like Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
I
don't know. Yeah. I don't know why this is so divisive. It's interesting. I think it just is DC films destined to be divisive for the rest of the...
Quite possibly.
Is thematically Wonder Woman dark?
I feel like it is. I feel like there's that scene where they're walking through the war and she's looking over at like a horse dying, and then someone else, like a woman, like they do try to show the dark side of World War One. I don't feel like it's particularly like,
and then they have that third act, remember?
Yeah. Like everyone's going to get gassed and whatever else, so
yeah.
I don't feel like Wonder Woman is particularly bright and colourful Marvel-ish. It definitely is somewhere more in line with your typical superhero movie, but I don't feel like Wonder Woman does fit in line with your typical Marvel movie until the last boss battle at the end of it, at which point that feels like something out of a Marvel movie. But up until that point, I feel like it was, and that's the worst part of the movie, for me personally, is that last 20 minutes, so up until then, I felt like it was still different enough, unique.
Yep. Last point, Randall Park has had a good year in superhero films.
Can't wait for him in the sequel. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I think he'll be in the next Ant-Man movie as well. So, Nick, you ventured out to the cinema.
I did.
You saw Vice.
On New Year's
the
Day.
Dick Cheney movie.
I did.
What'd you think?
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah? What'd you think of Christian Bale's performance?
Honestly, if you didn't know it was Christian Bale going in, I would have a hard time recognising him as Christian Bale. He just seemed to get lost in the role, especially with all the prosthetics and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, really good.
Yeah, were you familiar with Dick Cheney before? Had you known much about American
I
politics?
knew a little bit about him, but not to the extent of what the movie explained to me.
Yeah,
I knew
so
he was the vice president
lesson.
and he shot a guy.
Yeah, that's
and then
right.
that guy
Friend in the
apologized.
face.
But yeah, I think it was, among other things, apart being insightful and kind of informative in a way, it was also very scary in just how much power people in those positions actually have and how much they can affect change for the worse, as evidently it's shown.
Yeah.
And the way it's told is very unique as well. Like, there's like different cuts and sort of techniques they do to change it up and make it funny. And yeah, it's very eclectic, I guess, in a way.
Well, the rumor I heard is there was a musical number that got cut. Do you think that would have fit?
I reckon it would have fit because it cut to a Shakespearean part and then there were credits halfway through the movie, and it's just very manic, I want to say.
Yeah, I'm keen to check it out. How was Sam Rockwell as George W. Bush?
He was good. You could tell he was Sam Rockwell putting on like a Texan accent, but he served the part very well. And Steve Carell was pretty good in it as well, and Amy Adams.
Cool. So I checked out a couple of things. I watched King Arthur: Legend of the Sword, one of Dylan's favorite films of last year.
My man.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It was it very much reminded me of Sherlock Holmes, Guy Ritchie's Sherlock Holmes, the odd storytelling, like backtracking and how the story go, and like all the sharp cuts and everything. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Charlie Hunnam did a good job as Arthur. Jude Law is very good as the bad guy, I guess.
Merlin?
Yeah.
No, he's not
Merlin?
Merlin.
It was like
Merlin's in it.
Is Merlin in it?
Merlin is in it.
no, he isn't.
Yeah, you hear about him. Like he's
He's said.
you see
his
like a
name is
shadow
said.
of him or his hands or something like that. Like
Yeah.
Just like
although
Thor is in the
it
Hulk.
just shocked me how it opened with freaking giant elephants out of nowhere. So.
yeah, no, it's straight away. It's like, hey, this is King Arthur, but it's also like more of a Tolkien-esque King Arthur where there's mystical creatures and stuff like that. So
Cool. Yeah. So I continued the fantasy route. I went and I watched A Wrinkle in Time that was released earlier in the year. Did either of you catch that?
Oh, that's the one with Mindy Kaling, isn't it?
Mindy Kaling, Oprah Winfrey, and Reese Witherspoon, and then some kids.
No, I didn't see it.
Dylan?
no, I wanted to, but
Yeah, it's not good. I don't know. I hear the book is very good. I know some people obviously like this movie, but it just felt like a meandering mess of CGI, and yeah, it didn't interest me at all. And then the little kid, I don't know his name. He was very good, but he was given probably the most to do. Yeah,
I want to watch it because
Wrinkle in
Ava
Time.
DuVernay directed it, and that's the only reason
Yeah.
I want to watch it.
I know, but I don't know. Yeah, you get those three people just suddenly disappear. Like the three big names disappear like halfway through the movie.
Oh, really?
And then, yeah, spoilers. So yeah, it's just kind of it just felt uneven.
It's a family
and
movie. It's a kids
unpolished.
movie. The kids are the main
Yeah, I
characters.
know.
They want the kids to get attached to them. They,
Yeah, I know.
You know, so I don't know. I might watch it one day still.
It just didn't work for me. Nick, you've been watching the Purge films. You watched Purge and the Purge Anarchy.
I did. They were on Amazon Prime. I'd been meaning to watch them for quite a while. Like, I've seen the box set or the grouped set on Google Play, and I've always found the premise to be very interesting. It kind of, almost in a way, kind of reminded me of the Saw franchise, as the first one is like a proper horror, like it's set in one location and everything happens there, whereas the second one, it expands and you see more of the world and it becomes less horror-esque. I think, for me, the premise and the idea and the backstory of The Purge work better than the actual execution of the movies, which I've been told the ones after that explore more of that side of it, so which I think I'd enjoy more. But yeah, I'm keen to watch the next two just for that more explanation on the lore of the world.
Cool. Dylan, you're a Purge fan, I think.
I haven't watched the first Purge yet, which is the last film, and I haven't watched the TV series yet. But I plan to do all of those things because I think the premise and everything's just interesting. That I'll keep watching them just for the setup. And I also kind of like how after the first film, they're like, well, we can't really do it set in one place again because it's just going to be the same movie. So then they have to get out and about and explore what else is happening. And like Nick said, the first film is a really good proper horror movie, you know, proper scares and stuff as these people try and break into this house on Purge night. And then after that, I think every other film following is a thriller / action movie.
Yeah.
And
The Purge 2 is practically The Punisher.
yeah. Yep. You got, what's his face? Grillo.
Frank Grillo.
Frank Grillo just leading a charge, running around, being like kicking some ass, and he returns in the third one as well. So
Oh, he does.
yeah. So you have a good time with him. But yeah, the premise and everything makes it a lot of fun. You get to see some really cool style choices and freaky masks and all these sorts of things they get to have fun with. And every movie's like tight 90 minutes, and it just kicks off very fast with the message coming, "This is your purge message," and the sirens go off, and it's like, all right, let's get down to some people dying and stuff. It's fun. They're fun movies.
The thing I find the funniest thing about the whole premise is that it's designed to cull the poor people of the society so they aren't a burden on the economy and all that kind of stuff, where if this happened in the real world, I can just imagine people breaking into banks and wiping their mortgages out and all that kind of stuff. So I don't see people going out murdering each other as opposed to just going out and looting and fucking wiping out their debt and all that kind of stuff.
They pretty quickly get into that's why it happened in the first place, but then it's like 90% of the people that you see out doing it are just the whole film basically goes, this is like people have sick desires, and if you gave them the chance to do stuff with them, this is what would happen. Like, most of the people out there, some of the other films, I think even the third one, I think it's the third one, gets more into like just rich people. Why are they out doing it? Yeah. They don't need to be. They don't need to be out there risking their necks. They're just doing it because they just want to get their kicks off. Yeah.
Dylan, I saw you didn't get your fix of Jason Momoa, so you watched Braven.
I watched Braven before Aquaman, and Braven is a better film than Aquaman, so that worked out quite well. Because that is Jason Momoa up in the woods with fucking axes, bows and arrows, and just being Jason Momoa, starring as Jason Momoa, doing Jason Momoa things, really. So that one was quite good. The synopsis is pretty simple. He's like works for a logging company or something like that, cutting down trees and stuff. He's in charge of it, and one of the persons he works for uses the company truck to try and take drugs across the country, and they accidentally crashes the truck, and then they need somewhere to hide the drugs, and he's like, oh, my boss's place is up here in the woods, so we'll just stick it up there for the night and we'll come back tomorrow. Little does he know that Jason Momoa and his family decide to go up there the next day, so they're in the place when the drug people all show up to try and retrieve the drugs back, and then Jason Momoa has to protect his family and stuff. And also what the fuck is the actor's name? The blind guy from that movie. He's really quite good in it also. He plays his dad. He was also in Avatar as well as the big like colonel dude or whatever it was.
Stephen Lang?
Yeah. Stephen Lang, thank you. Yeah, Stephen Lang plays Jason Momoa's dad. And the movie kicks off and shows that he's kind of losing his memory a bit. Like he walks into a bar, gets into a fight because he thinks someone's there to pick up his wife, and like so it has this dynamic between Jason Momoa dealing with the fact he might have to put his dad into a home soon, and then all of a sudden he's like, him and his dad team up. He's like, you got this, and Stephen Lang's up there with a fucking sniper rifle. It's pretty simple, basic action movie, but it's cheesy fun, I feel. Yeah.
Sidebar, I've just looked it up, and every single poster for this movie is Jason Momoa in the same pose, but they've photoshopped him holding different guns and bows and shit. It looks absolutely ridiculous.
Maybe he was holding all of the different poses and stuff.
No.
They also have really good
Exactly
cinematography out in the Canadian, whatever I think is where it takes place, wilderness there. And to the point where like the first 5 minutes is a really fucking long opening credit sequence, and they're just like, we took lots of pretty footage out here and we wanted a way to use it, so here it is. And it's like, okay.
I watched another couple of movies. I watched The Hollers. I don't know if you've heard of this one. This is the John Krasinski's directed, starring family drama comedy thing, starring him, Anna Kendrick, Richard Jenkins, Margot Martindale, and Charlotte Copley. Pretty much Margot Martindale has cancer. They just found out she has a brain tumor. So John Krasinski's character comes back to his hometown, and then family stuff happens. It's a really, really great movie. I really enjoyed it. A lot of heartfelt moments and funny jokes, and Charlie Day's in it as well, who is a really good turn as like a jealous husband because he's married to John Krasinski's character's ex-girlfriend.
This sounds very convoluted.
Yeah, it does. The way I'm explaining it is very convoluted, but yeah, it's a family drama. It just hit me in all the right spots. And then I watched The Edge of 17, which Dylan talked about earlier in the year. Again, I was hoping it was going to I was going to like it more than I actually did, but I didn't. I love how the Haley Steinfeld character talks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's got a great she's got great dialogue, and the way she delivers stuff is really interesting. But yeah,
You didn't like
The
Woody
story,
Harrelson
it's-
just basically being like,
Woody Harrelson. Yeah, those two just talking shit to each other.
Yeah.
I could have watched that for 90 minutes. Yeah, I can't believe the film just opens with telling him she's going to kill herself, and then
Woody Harrelson's like,
Kim-
all right, do it.
yeah. Oh, guess what? What a coincidence! I was going to kill myself too. Yes, but it just it's not the most memorable movie in that genre. Probably we've had
I
a
don't
lot
think.
of good
I
ones in the last
think.
couple of years.
I think it kind of doesn't go. It's trying to be a more serious movie with a little bit of comedy, but then I feel like maybe studio interference tried to make it more of your typical teen rom-com
Yeah.
thing, and it has this weird balance when you can tell they were trying very much not to be your typical teen rom-com, and kind of like it's still you could tell they were trying to be a comedy, but very heavy on the drama side as well, because it does tackle like serious story elements obviously while joking about them at the same time. I just feel like they didn't hit the right mix somehow. Yeah.
All right, then I watched a bunch of food movies. So I watched Chef, the Jon Favreau.
What, that fucking
Directed-
fantastic movie. I watched that this year again.
Yeah,
as
it's
well.
really good. It's really good. Only thing, they don't get to the food truck thing fast enough. I felt like, obviously, that's built up as like a big in the marketing. I felt like that was the major part of the story, but it was only really like the last third or so of the film. But other than that, it's really good, and the food in it looks incredible.
That movie makes me hungry every time I watch it. Also, if you was like, Dylan, make your top 10 feel good movies of all time list, Chef would be on there somewhere. That is like, I think that movie is just an overall like a really good, feel good, fun movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Although the other thing that irked me in the film is nobody else except the kid knew how to use any technology.
yeah, Jon Favreau's
Explain Twitter to me.
he's old. He doesn't know how to use Twitter. You know, he has no idea.
This is the 1 second videos. Yeah. So that was Chef. Then I watched Julia and Julia, the Amy Adams / Meryl Streep movie.
Also good.
That was really good too. You have to be willing to accept Meryl Streep's accent in this film.
It's something.
I've never seen
It's something.
I've never seen Julia Childs in like any footage of her, but clearly she must have talked that way, because I can't believe a director would agree for that choice of a voice for somebody. Unless you're Meryl Streep, I guess you could get away with it. But yeah, that was
Sounds like Hyannis
Interesting.
from Keeping Up Appearances. If anyone knows that show.
I do know that show.
Yes.
And then I watched today's special, which is I can't remember the name of the actor, but he was on the Daily Show. It was the correspondent.
John Short.
No.
Trevor?
Yeah, it's like he has to take over his dad's Indian restaurant, even though he's a French chef, and then that's fine. I was just in the sort of mood to see more
Food?
food, yeah. And it wasn't as good as the other two, but yeah, it's pretty solid. Nick, I saw you watched the Christmas movie beloved by all, or most people, Love Actually.
I did.
How do you feel about Love Actually?
I love Love Actually.
Okay.
It's been a thing every year that I'd watch it. I remember watching it as a kid with my mum and my brother, and then it's just been a thing that every year we'd watch it. Not always together, but we would watch it around Christmas time every year. Yeah, I just really love that movie. It's got everything, really. Drama, feel good, comedy. Yeah, it's just...
What's your favorite pairing? Or storyline?
I reckon the Hugh Grant one is my favourite. Hugh Grant and the secretary or the aide or whatever she is. And I also particularly love... what's his name? Old mate out of The Kingsman.
Colin Firth?
Yeah, he is, with the French... the Portuguese girl.
Yeah, that one's good too. I like the little kid story with Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
Dylan, do you have strong opinions on Love Actually?
I don't like it, but that's fine. I don't.
That's right. You're a soulless husk.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Well, did you like the Christmas movie you watched, Office Christmas Party, with lots of people?
Jason Bateman.
Jason Bateman.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of people.
T.J. Miller.
It was like, I'm not mistaken, am I? There was not an adult Christmas movie released this year, was there? Because the last 5+ years there has been one every year, I feel, but 2018.
No, not really.
Yeah.
I can't say I've paid that much attention to it.
But, I feel like every year prior, they kind of picked up interest again to the point where they're like, fuck, these are back in. Let's make Bad Santa 2. Like, they were kind of popular again. Office Christmas Party is fine. It doesn't do anything super interesting, super great. Jennifer Aniston's pretty good in it. Jason Bateman's Jason Bateman. Olivia Munn is quite good in it, I felt. She had good chemistry with Jason Bateman, so that was good. Overall, though, it's not really something you'd watch when it's not Christmas, but I hadn't watched it yet, so I just chucked it on. Christmas is happening. They have a party. Jokes ensue. People take drugs. Their stuff gets broken. Antics. It's fine.
All right. Speaking of Christmas, let's move into our mandatory Netflix segment of the show. Because Dylan, you watched The Holiday Calendar. Now, I saw the ads for this a couple of times. I was like, oh, maybe I'll check that out. Never got around to it. What do you think?
It's like... It's not bad. It's not great. It does very much feel like a Hallmark Christmas movie, especially the way it starts. I'm like, holy fuck, everyone in the first 10, 15 minutes when the main character's girl gets home from her job and she's like interacting with, of course, everyone is at home, her uncle's there, her mom, dad, the millions of, the whole family's there, everyone's hugging, everything's great, Christmas is fucking fantastic, blah, blah, blah. They gave each other 10 million hugs each in the first 10 minutes of this movie. I'm like, Jesus Christ, can we, everyone settle down? But the premise is basically that her uncle, I think it was, or grandpa, I can't fucking remember that, gives her this old Christmas calendar, but not one that has chocolates in it. It's like a wooden one that's made, and then she tries to open it when she gets home, but it's not working, and then magically in the morning it's opened, and that continues every day. It magically keeps opening, and then she whatever comes out of it, she realizes is a sign. It's predicting what's kind of going to happen to her that day, and then she of course has her best friend who she's not romantically attracted to, and then she gets romantically attracted to another guy, and then spoilers, the whole movie's basically her coming around to realize that the other guy is the one for her. So yeah, it was a very Hallmark Christmas movie of just lovey-dovey, happy stuff or whatever. It was a weird one though. When I was flicking through when I was weird, I thought for that to be a Netflix exclusive or whatever, original thing. So
okay, you also saw The Christmas Chronicles. Do you agree with Nick that Kurt Russell is the best Santa of all time?
I still have a soft spot for old mate. What's his fuck?
He doesn't count because
such a soft spot.
I meant to fucking on his name.
Tim Allen.
Tim Allen, thank you. I still have a soft spot for that Santa Claus because that's the one I watched as a kid growing up. But I would say that I was highly surprised at how good of a Santa Claus Kurt Russell did make. I was like, this is not going to work at all. It's Kurt Russell. But I was like, oh, it's no. Yeah, and that movie was fun. It was fine. It wasn't anything great, but...
How do you feel about the ending? Because Ashley hates it.
I don't understand what to hate.
He loathes it.
I don't understand what's there to hate about the ending.
Okay, spoilers for The Christmas Chronicles. But he didn't need his hat the whole time.
Yes.
He had these magical powers the whole time, so he could have just saved Christmas all this time.
He was teaching the kids a lesson.
So you're going to risk the sanctity of Christmas just to teach
Christmas
two
was
stupid
never
kids a
gonna
lesson?
Fail.
He's Santa Claus, right?
Ridiculous.
Ash? He knows if you've been naughty or nice.
Got better things to do. You got 364 other days to teach his kids a lesson.
No.
Santa only works one night a year.
Exactly.
I mean, he can put... If he really wanted to teach him a lesson, he could just, put in a little bit of extra work.
No, it's not in the EBA.
Yeah, right. All right, you two both watched the most memed about movie of the last week, Bird Box. How was it, Nick?
It was alright.
What are the memes, by the way? I haven't seen any of the memes.
Yeah, I haven't seen any.
Haven't you
memes.
seen?
No.
Like,
No.
anytime somebody has a problem with something, I can't remember. I feel like I've seen that shot of Sandra Bullock with the blindfold on her face on a bunch of stuff. So
Okay.
and then there's all the memes with The Quiet Place and this, and there's another one where people can't speak, and then something else in the other corner. Yeah, I'm no meme expert. I've just seen it.
I'm
all over
no
the place.
memer expert.
Yeah, this is what do you want to watch, not what do you want to meme.
Yeah, I don't think it was particularly good. It was,
No, I think it was far too.
yeah. It was okay, I guess. Like, I wasn't bored, but at the same time, I could have skipped 10, 15 minutes at some point and still been fine, I feel. So, like,
I don't think she was particularly good in this movie either.
well, she's supposed to be a meanie, and, like, you know, that's part
Yeah,
of
I
the
know,
plot.
but she just felt very stiff in her acting.
Yeah, because her arms are out. She can't see. Have to be serious. Also, that spoilers for the first 10, 15 minutes of the movie. They kill off Sarah Paulson, which just pissed me off for the next hour and a half. Like, Sarah Paulson's in this movie. Fuck yes, I love her. And she dies. Jesus. Damn.
But John Malkovich survives for a little bit longer.
Yeah. John Malkovich in this movie playing John Malkovich from every other movie where he plays John Malkovich.
Exactly.
Just being angry and yelling at people. Also, I don't like the whole, it does a thing where it starts and it goes back in time. And that's what they do all movie. It's like back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. It's just this constant. 5 years later, back to what happened like right as the epidemic took place. 5 years later, what's happening now? Back in time, what's happening in the epidemic? And they do this back forth thing for the most of the movie. And it gets to a certain point where they're like, they do a whole bit in the movie where they pretty much explain how hard it would be for them to go outside because they can't open their eyes, of course, or you need blindfolds on. And they do this segment, slight spoilers, they do this segment where they try and drive somewhere, and it's such an epic thing, and it's like, this is so fucking hard. And then at some point in the movie where it's like, the whole movie, like, back, forth, and you're like, how do they get from where they are now to this other place? They're just like, nah, not going to explain it. We showed you how hard it was for them to drive that short distance at one time, but just somehow they managed to get from here to here. Fuck it. No, it doesn't matter. I was like, why? Well, that's so stupid. You spent the entire movie going backwards and forwards like 20 times. And you can't tell me how they got from there to there. Yeah, I mean, it was fine. I don't think it's bad, but it's not.
I also don't understand why they didn't keep someone in that room with the guy they tied up.
I have a lot of questions for this movie. I'm never going to get them answered.
I think it has as many, if not more, plot holes than a good Quiet Place. But I think A Quiet Place executed on its premise a whole lot better.
And A Quiet Place was actually scary, I felt.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't like shaking in my boots, but at the same time, there was actual tension building and some level of terror, and the acting overall was a lot better. And because that's a lot smaller cast, the characters are all more interesting. In this one, it has this huge, well, not huge, but, you know, a fairly big cast, and most of the characters aren't that really interesting, especially when one of the main characters is just fucking John Malkovich playing John Malkovich, which isn't an interesting character, full stop. I will share that, though. This movie, since I've mentioned it last episode or whatever it was, does have, what's her name? Where is it fucking here somewhere? I've lost her. Where? Oh, my... Danielle McDonald, right, is in this movie, who's become my standout of 2018, I feel, because she was in that... what was that Jennifer Aniston one called?
Dumplin'.
She was in Dumplin', and then she was in that other movie I watched at the start of the year that I quite liked, where she played that rapper. So when she showed,
she's the Australian one.
Yeah, she's that Australian girl. So when she showed up in this, I was like, there she is again. She was she wasn't great in it, but still, I was like, this girl's getting around at this point. Good for her.
Yep. So I watched the new documentary series that just came out on Netflix called 7 Days Out. So what the premise of the thing is there's an event and then they follow people like from 7 days out of the event. So the first episode is about the Westminster Dog Show.
But most importantly, what's the last episode about?
It is about the 2018 League of Legends North American Spring Championship Series.
Yeah.
That was really interesting, but mostly just to see the players, like the owner of 1,000 Thieves, one of the teams that made to the finals, is like super sports guy and super into it. And he's like, here, I've got these cool jerseys for you guys to wear. They're like the special championship edition jerseys, like the New York Yankees, like the white pinstripes, and all the players in the team are giving him nothing. They don't care at all. They're just they're kind of upset that they're interrupting their practice.
Fucking nerds.
And then on the other side, I don't know if you heard this story, Nick, Dylan, because you're a League of Legends person. Double Lift, I believe his name is, in Team Liquid. His mother was murdered like the week before the final by his brother. So, yeah, just following that and him sort of dealing with that.
Cover that in that.
Not looking like he dealt with it at all.
That was one of those stories. I remember. A quick tangent on that is because I don't keep 100% up to date with League of Legends, but I remember when that story popped up on Twitter one morning when I woke up, I was like, what? Like, that's fucking nuts. But yeah, that series overall has such a wide range of, it's like League of Legends is the finale, that other things to start, and I think it has like some, it's like music event, blah, blah, blah. I haven't watched it yet. So it's got like a
restaurant opening, a big restaurant opening. It's got the NASA Cassini mission to go to Saturn, like, land in Saturn, the Kentucky Derby, and then the Chanel Haute Couture Fashion Week, which was probably the one that I found least interesting. But it's interesting just to see a glimpse into all those different worlds and to see.
How long does an episode go for?
Probably like an hour, I think, from memory. Yeah. So worth, even if you just want to pick and choose which ones you want to watch, just because which subject matter interests you. Yeah, so that was that. And Dylan, you watched The Fundamentals of Caring. Paul Rudd, Selena Gomez, and
what is his name? Yeah, I was like, "Fuck, we should." Have you watched this movie before? Because
yes, I have. I watched it.
Craig Roberts
a while ago.
Is what it is.
Craig Roberts, yeah.
Yeah.
Craig.
I liked it. I feel like my only problem, like it's funny, and there's good chemistry between Craig and Paul Rudd, of course, and even Selena Gomez, and everyone has really good chemistry, and the movie's funny and whatever else. My biggest problem that I had by the end of the movie is I felt like it really needed at least one moment of real seriousness to it to kind of land the whole movie, because it never takes itself real serious ever. It's always jokes. Even though what it's about and what Craig Roberts' character, I can't remember the exact name of what he's got, like obviously serious things. And there's one scene where I felt like that was about to do something super serious and like have an actual big emotional moment for the movie, but then it was just a fake out, like a lot of the moments in the movie are, which makes sense for Craig Roberts' character because he's a bit of a jokester. But I honestly feel like it just kind of needed at least one real serious moment, considering what the movie is based on, like what it's about. So, but overall, I enjoyed it.
He had a muscle dystrophy, so yeah, his muscles are all gone.
Yeah,
but yeah, I thought it was really good. Again, yeah, just missing that little bit extra, which would have made it really great. But
yeah,
so cool. So let's move on to our top 10s in television. So, Nick, you've got your top 5 set up. So
I have, because I'm putting in half the work necessary.
Yeah, I know. Why don't you hit us with the first of your top 5?
Altered Carbon.
So the Netflix series.
Yes.
Season 1 or season 2?
Season 1.
Why is it in your top 5?
Because I really enjoyed it.
What's the plot premise?
Okay, so it's based off a book series. It's about where technology has progressed far enough where they can download your consciousness and put it into a new body. So it's kind of like the rich people can live indefinitely, where the poor people just have to like try and survive. Or say if you got murdered, the state finds you another body, where there's this tiny little plot point in the show where this 10-year-old girl got murdered and then got put into another body of like a senile, like a really old man. And it's, just kind of play on the discrepancy between the super rich and the poor and all that kind of stuff. And the main plot point is of this super soldier who wakes up like 200 or so years later and he has to investigate the murder of this rich guy, but there's all like plot points of his history coming up and all that kind of stuff. all throughout it. It's really good hard sci-fi, which I haven't seen a good hard sci-fi TV show for quite a while, other than The Expanse.
Fringe.
Yeah, but that's still quite a few years ago now.
Cool. Dylan, what is your number 10?
Who is America? The Sacha Baron Cohen series. His return to pranking, I guess, celebrities and political people or whatever. Although Who Was America is more than just a joke show, since, I mean, by the time I finished watching that first episode, I was like, we're fucked. Like, just like, it's there's so many parts in this show where you're laughing and then you kind of stop laughing because you're like, wait, like, that guy just said, you know, like that, or he's like, we should put guns in babies' hands, or that person was willing to kill someone, but it's a joke. Like, there's so many times where it's funny, but then all of a sudden it's not funny. So I think, I mean, that's kind of the point of the show and what the reaction, of course, that he was trying to get from making it. But every week that it was on, I was sitting there waiting, and I was pretty much refreshing Stan, just waiting for it to pop up because I was hooked and couldn't wait to see what was happening in that week's episode and who was going to be on it and what crazy stuff was going to happen. And it is less, I think the reason it's in my top 10 is less just how crazy the jokes are and just more about how the after effects of that stuff where you're like, we're fucked. Like, well, America's fucked, but as a human race, we're fucked at the same time. So
cool. My number 10 is DC's Legends of Tomorrow. It's just sort of a guilty pleasure, but I think this season they've just sort of gone, not been too concerned about what people want and just gone balls to the wall, just fully insane. They've had giant toys, monster things. They've had Godzilla-like creatures. They've had a woman with 3 boobs. They've had unicorns that murder people and eat their hearts. And then, yeah, they've just gone crazy this season. And then they've added Constantine. And then I think they do really good time travel stories as well. Like, just really interesting. They're clearly the thing that they're putting the most creativity into and has the most freedom to do whatever they want because it's not really tied to anything else. So, yeah, check out DC's Legends Tomorrow. Dylan, what was your number 9?
Got him. My number 9 was Preacher Season 3. This was the first year that I've caught up and been on board with Preacher as it was actually airing because I watched all of Season 1, Season 2, and then by the time I caught up to Season 3, it was up to like episode 4 at the time, I think, or something like that. And then I watched it week by week from that point on. And I think where Season 1 didn't hook me straight away, Season 2, I was much more interested when they added in more characters I knew from already reading the comics and stuff. And Season 3 adds a lot more stuff from the comics that I was kind of familiar with. And I think that's probably why I enjoyed it a lot more than the first season, which was very different to the comic series. But
I feel like the first season was setting up the story, and then Season 2 onwards is the journey.
Yeah, it's much more weirder and intense. Yeah. So whereas the first season is just like, yeah, there's a guy who has like tried to kill himself, now he's got an ass face, and there's a vampire. Sure, that's cool. The Season 2, and especially once we get into Season 3, it's like you get introduced to the old father, for instance, who's a massively obese leader of basically the cult that's trying to hide the heir to Jesus' throne, like the one true heir of Jesus, and all sorts of weird stuff like this gets introduced. And then you get really great characters like Jesse's family is introduced in this, or he's like not his real family. His grandma. His grandma, yeah. But then the other two are just people, yeah. And they're all great. Everyone that plays them, great. Especially, I was trying to find her name. Betty Buckley plays grandma. She's fucking fantastic. And then Jeremy Childs plays Jody, and he's also fantastic in this series as this giant, stoic, basically impossible cement machine that would kick anyone's ass and be unstoppable. But he's not like massively muscly. He's just like a tall, fuck off, don't touch me kind of dude. Overall, it's just weird, absolutely crazy show, and I'm hoping I would much prefer them just to wrap it up next year, to be honest, because I don't know if they'll get renewed for another season. So I'm hoping season 4 just kind of ties it up nicely, because they leave it on a cliffhanger that I know where they're going from the comics, because it's a very prominent thing that happens in comics. But at the same time, I'm like, they could just rush through stuff and end it there, so it's fine.
This was also on my list too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't really say much more than what Dylan had to say about it, but I just love the bullshit, balls to the wall, fucking out there, just stuff that happens in the show, bringing Hitler back from hell, and just dealing with the Santa killers and all that kind of stuff. I just really like it, and I'm particularly fond of kind of like heaven and hell, churchy kind of themes and that kind of stuff in media as well, so it just speaks to me. I'm not very familiar with the comics, so I don't really have that comparison to make, but as a show on its own legs, I just really, really enjoy it.
Cool. All right. Well, speaking of occult stuff, I guess my number 9 is Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. We'd been anticipating it for a while, and yeah, it lived up to expectations. It is visually its own its own thing. It very much looks like the comic books. I think I really enjoy the family dynamic of the Spellman household. I think Sabrina's pretty interesting, but the Hilda Zelda back and forth is good to see. And also what's his name?
Ambrose.
Ambrose, yeah. His scene stealing, really great to see, yeah.
I honestly wish the show was about him and not Sabrina.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a spin-off at some point, but yeah.
Prequel series.
Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. We're going to get more soon. Yeah. So, Dylan, what was your number 7?
8.
8. What was your number 8?
We don't want to hear you, right? Get to 7.
My number 8 was Atlanta Series 2, the Donald Glover series, also starring Brian Tyree Henry, Lakeith Stanfield, and Zazie Beetz. I was like,
yep, Zazie.
Zazie? Yeah, okay. It's I've seen people I just go to the description of the show that I've seen, which is basically it's Curb Your Enthusiasm for like the rap culture and rap world, which I feel like is a really good description of what the show is, because it's odd, weird, funny, dramatic. Some of the episodes, of course, have things to do with other episodes, but at times a lot of the episodes are just their own self-contained stories with some continuation throughout the entire show. There is like an overarching story, but pretty much every episode is its own sort of thing that focuses on a really small element or small story. Some episodes don't even have certain characters in them. Some just focus on other characters. For example, the standout episode that I believe most people love from this series is the episode 6, Teddy Perkins, which basically has Lakeith Stanfield's character, Darius, going to buy a piano from a rich white dude in a mansion, who is, we later found out, was played by Donald Glover, who's just in white makeup and everything. He plays this really fucking freaky character, and this episode's basically like a horror movie, and it's really weird, and it's like, how does this fit into this series? I don't know, but now it exists. And then the season finale, really, really fantastic. Once you start realizing where the finale's going, you kind of have your, heart in your throat, whatever it is, when you like, you're intense for the majority of the episode, because you know something that the characters don't know, or one character in particular doesn't know. And then when something happens, you're like, oh fuck, how are we going to get out of this? And how it plays off towards the end is fantastic. And every episode's great. All the characters are great. I love all of them now. I'm well attached to all these characters, much more in season 2 than I was in the first series. So I'm really looking forward to season 3.
Cool. My 8th favorite show of the year was a latecomer. I haven't talked about it on the show yet. Killing Eve. I binge watched the entire season in one day. Pretty much, I'm sure you've heard of it. Sandra Oh is getting a lot of praise. Mm-hmm. Her performance is really good. She plays like a analyst who suddenly is noticed a female assassin is working around Europe and is put in charge of a task force to sort of capture her. But the person that you need to see this show for is Jodie Comer, who plays the assassin Villanelle, which makes sense because the books that it was based on, she's the lead character, or it's based around her. So it's sort of interesting that they've decided to make Sandra Oh sort of the focal character, but it's freaking brilliant. The writing is so good. Jodie Comer's performance is like a sociopath killer, but like she's got like this funny streak where she just wants to be jokey all the time, and she's got obsessive tendencies, and yeah, it's freaking incredible. You should definitely check it out. It's currently on ABC iView. You can watch it all for free. So yeah, Killing Eve, check it out. Now, Dylan, what's your number 7?
My number 7 is American Crime Story Season 2, The Assassination of Gianni Versace. Great. I loved the first series, and I was struggling how they would change what each season would be so much, and if I'd find it very weird. But I'm kind of on board now because the first series, of course, was about the OJ case, and it was very much just a like court case drama for the entire show because a lot of it was in there. Season 2 is like a 10 episode, or it's actually 9 episodes, 9 episode long form version of your normal kind of real story crime serial case that you could normally see in a movie. There's a lot of flashing backwards and forwards, a lot more characters. The timeline gets confusing at times, but it's really, really great. And the thing that carries it to be so interesting is all the performances. Darren Criss as Andrew Cunanan, the person who murdered Gianni Versace, and a bunch of other people, which you do see throughout the series, of course, is fantastic in his role. Then Edgar Ramirez, who plays Gianni Versace, also fantastic. Ricky Martin plays his lover, and Antonio Diamasio. I don't fucking know.
Did you say Ricky Martin, the singer?
Yeah.
Oh.
You ready? You want to watch it now? You're like, Ricky Martin, I love him.
I do love Ricky Martin. I didn't realise he was an actor.
He's now. Penelope Cruz also plays Gianni's brother, and she's also this very strong, great character, a real person, but performance in this series. And it's great. It's this up-down spiraling story of a guy who obviously has things wrong with him from stage one, from the go, but at the same time you do get to see the world wrong him several times, and the story is played to this backdrop of a time when homosexual clubs in places were still kind of hidden in this thing. So there's a lot of elements of like, was he did he hate himself so much secretly, even though he was such an outward okay with himself person. They dive into those elements which make the show more interesting than simply a story about, hey, it's a guy who killed a really famous fashion designer. So it balances out and makes it a lot more interesting. There you go.
Cool. My number 7 show is Glow. Season 2 just builds on good first season. Finally get to see the Alison Brie's character and Betty Gilpin's character sort of resolve their issues or sort of have it out in a brilliant episode. Mark Maron continues to do a really good job, like surprising a lot of people. I think he has sort of an interesting arc during the season, and sort of develops as a person.
I want him to play
Stanley.
Stanley, yeah.
No, I think he might be a bit too gruff. It would be very much out of character, I think, for him to play Stanley. It would stretch his acting range because he always plays like an asshole. And Stanley seems like a nice guy. But yeah, Glow season 2, the bigger, better, faster. I don't know what's the song. Yeah. So, and I'm looking forward to season 3 because they leave it on an interesting note. Yeah. So Nick, what was the next TV show on your top 5 list?
Tom vs. Time.
Tom vs. Time? What's Tom vs. Time?
Tom vs. Time is a 6-part documentary following the life of Tom Brady.
Okay. Who's Tom Brady?
Tom Brady is the quarterback of the New England Patriots.
So like a low ranked team that nobody cares about.
Yeah,
It's like
you
a
know,
struggling.
it's kind of out of left field, you know, and not many people cared about it, you know. But yeah, I found it quite interesting, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Is
I think
it just
it's
because you love the subject matter? Is that? Do you think you would enjoy it if you weren't a Patriots fan?
Exploring the theme of him being so good at his age, where like the kind of the processes he goes to, the hard work he puts into what he does to stay so good at that high level at his age. So I found it quite interesting.
Dylan, what is your number 6?
Westworld Season 2. Westworld came back in 2018 after a year off, and I was very happy with a lot of things they did. Kind of disappointed with some things, but at the same time, overall, I was quite happy that they moved the show forward, and that sets a precedent for what we'll be going to into Season 3. They didn't try to repeat or drag out anything from Season 1. Season 1 is very much, hey, the park's alive, everyone's walking around, you get to see what the park would be like if you could visit it and what everyone kind of does inside the park and all that sort of stuff. And then Season 2 is like the park's gone to shit, so that's more like and if you've seen the Westworld movie, the movie very quickly gets into the park's gone to shit, so it gets to that stuff in Season 2, and that's what you get to see. They delve into a lot more elements. A lot of the stuff I can completely understand, especially when you get to the season finale. A lot of people have been like, no, this is so weird. Does any of this stuff make sense? I'm fine. I'm completely on board with it. It definitely goes into like high level sci-fi elements a lot towards the end of the show, which I'm fine with, and it gets me super pumped for the potential of Season 3, which, much like Season 2, I think will be very, very, very different and can dive into interesting themes.
Yeah, I don't know what you see in that show, personally.
Isn't it on your top 5 list as well?
Just fucking kill the joke already, why don't you? Yeah, this is fucking...
So it was on your top 5.
Yes. I really love this show. My favourite part of it is just the way it tells the story, and it does not. It only gives you slivers of information here and there, and just the theorizing, just getting on Reddit and just discussing with me and Dylan. We did our show, Bevan World, and it's just an experience unlike any other for TV, just trying to work out what your theories are, what's going to happen, what does this mean, what does that mean, just, yeah.
It's a proper...
Truly unique for me.
It's a proper week by week theorize and talk shit about like the show and try and figure stuff out in a world where most shows that we watch are on Netflix and we just binge watch them and stuff. So
it definitely proves that the weekly format is not dead. Like, I don't believe this show would be the same binging it and not having people to discuss it with.
I wouldn't want to binge it, full stop. I like having a week
either.
between to theorize and stuff. So,
Man,
so Dylan,
it must be tough now to watch it if you don't have anybody to hear discuss about it. What if somebody wanted to go see somebody discuss the show week to week after they watch each episode of Westworld this season?
you could go to explosionnetwork.com and search for Bevanwell. Or youtube.com/explosionnetwork and search for Bevanwell.
Incredible. All right. My number 6 show of the year is American Vandal Season 2. I think it is better than Season 1. I feel like the characters are... A lot of the characters... It has a better standard of character. I think there were probably more standout characters. Some better characters in Season 1, but I feel like across the board, everybody feels more fleshed out and that sort of thing. DeMarcus Tillman, played by Melvin Gregg, is a standout. Really interesting character. And I feel like... I know what they were going for at the end of Season 1, where they sort of left it open-ended, but it felt like this season they had a definitive answer to the case they were looking to solve, and I felt very satisfied at the end of the season. And I'm disappointed that it's not coming back. Possibly. Dylan, what was your number 5?
My number 5 is Wild Wild Country, the Netflix 6-part documentary series that looks into the strange events that occurred into this small section of Oregon. I think I was trying to bring up the thing to double check. Yeah,
Yeah,
Oregon
it's
is where it takes place. Where this Osso, who's also known as like I think his name's Rakesh. Let's find it here. Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh is this guru from India who has a cult, or I guess, or a group of followers, or whatever, however you want to word it, over in India. And pretty much overnight, or what seems like overnight, he basically buys out this huge section of land in Oregon, and him and all his followers basically move in. They start building a town there, and it's all very weird, and the series starts weird, and you're like, how's this work? Can he just do that? Like, what's the legal ramifications? But then as the series picks up and episodes go into more, it's like the violence picks up, the tension between them and the town, the very local residents picks up, and it became one of the most intriguing, honestly, probably one of the most intriguing doco series I have ever watched, because it is so fucking weird that unless I was watching a documentary series with real footage, I would not have believed it even happened, because it is so weird. And it's also worth pointing out that Ma Anid Sheila, who is in it, and she was part of this cult thing. She's the lady who did an interview in Australia and said tough titties, and that became a meme throughout Australia.
I don't think she did an interview in Australia.
It was in Australia.
I think
it
was in Australia.
You can find the footage. Yeah, she's the one who was like tough titties. That's her. She wasn't here, I don't think. It was a broadcast thing. But it was on Win. Fun fact, Friday for you, everyone. But Wild Wild Country, it's really good.
Cool. My number 5 is The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Again, the second season just goes up another gear. Brilliant dialogue, brilliant characters, brilliant delivery across the board. Rachel Brosnahan is amazing. How she speaks that quickly is incredible to me. The reason to get Amazon Prime instead of all that 2-day shipping discount stuff
is
none of that's important. Marvelous Miss Maisel. It's great. Dylan, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is Sharp Objects, the HBO series, which was completely directed by Jean-Marc Vallée and based on the book by Gillian Flynn, who also did the Gone Girl book, if you want to call it all in. It's 8 episodes of really hard-to-watch television that tackles really dark and twisted themes and characters, and they're all completely multi-layered and interesting, but at the same time easy to hate all of them, and that's kind of why I think the show was so interesting. And I loved, well, it's hard to say I love, but I was intrigued to watch it every week. Amy Adams is fantastic in it. She completely dives into a character, a really hard character to play, but she gives it a role, and you can tell. And then also Patricia Clarkson plays it's hard to call it evil, but it's like from the get-go, from the moment you see her on screen in that first episode, you just like, I don't like her, there's something off, and she plays Amy Adams' character Mother in a series that's about Amy Adams, her character Camille returns to her hometown as a reporter to investigate a murder of a young girl that's taken place there. So at the same time she's trying to investigate this murder that's happened, it also intertwines with her dealing with her returning to her hometown, seeing her mum, and then stuff that's happened to her in her past. Sharp Objects.
My number 4 is BoJack Horseman season 5. BoJack Horseman continues to be one of the best animated shows you can watch. Very adult, but very funny. Particularly Todd this season, played by Alan Paul, who's is reveling in his newfound asexuality. Highlight of this season is an episode where he and his other asexual friend try to convince her parents that they're in a heterosexual relationship because they're sexual. They're like, the mother's a sexual therapist or something, and so the dad's was something else. It's just a bunch of crazy hijinks. You also get a deeper dive into Princess Carolyn this season. See the ramifications of Mr. Peanut Butter and Diane's divorce, And yeah, and then BoJack Horseman goes on a very Me Too journey this season as well. And of course, there's this standout episode where pretty much BoJack just delivers a eulogy for 30 minutes that I can't believe they made. Really, yeah, it's incredibly riveting, but I can't believe they just made a eulogy for an episode of television this year. Yeah, so BoJack Horseman, definitely check it out on Netflix. Nick, why don't you give us your last one? Because I'm worried that Dylan's going to mention it very soon, and then
me too.
You won't have the opportunity to talk about it.
Okay, the last one is The Haunting of Hill House, based on a book by Shirley Jackson, which was written in the 50s, I want to say, which was awful. But the show, I just really enjoyed. It's touted as a horror kind of show, but in reality, it's more a family drama with horror elements thrown in. All the actors, I think, were fantastic. There were flashbacks and flash forwards through it. And just the dynamic between the family and them trying to work through the situation that they're in was just riveting television. I really enjoyed it. I think it's one of the best shows this year.
Cool. All right, Dylan, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is Queer Eye, season 1 or 2 at this stage. Take your pick, I guess.
Guess what?
Yeah.
That's my number 3 as well.
Hey!
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 Or yes!
Yeah. Queer Eye was the biggest surprise of the year, I'd say, that's for sure. I definitely didn't have the show on my radar at all coming into 2018. I didn't even know it was being made until it showed up on Netflix that one day when I turned it on. It was like, brand new, out today. And I'm like, yeah, I'll watch this, bet it's horrible. Next second, we're all like, where's season 2? Give me more. Yeah, and crying. But Queer Eye is the ultimate feel-good show of 2018 with a fabulous cast of Fab Five. See what I did there? Very good. And each episode, there's only one episode I don't like out of both seasons. So, and that's because...
Is that the one with the lying guy?
Yeah, that fucker. Like, fuck him. Get the fuck out. They should have cut that episode and done it to someone who wasn't a dickhead. But every other episode is really great. Every person who's on it is really great. They have interesting themes they tackle throughout the show. What do you got to say? You'll go.
Yeah, it's just... You just feel good for everybody. Like, even the Fab Five people, they feel like they develop and learn each episode. There are some good tips in there. Avocado is apparently very good. Mm-hmm. I now know what a French tuck is.
Did you not know what a French tuck was?
No.
I don't know what a French tuck is.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Yeah.
I went to a public school, unlike the rest of you who apparently went to a public school.
No?
I know. To a private school?
Oh.
Yeah. It just has a habit of making you wonder why it's so dusty in the house. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you just need to wipe your eyes a little bit just to get the dust out.
Yeah. That's right, Ash.
Yeah. And all these people who are involved like live on now, especially in this day and age where you can track their history after the show. Like the guy in the first episode got remarried to his ex-wife.
Yep.
A bunch of them have gotten married since. So
yep.
Yeah, it's really great.
You get to see that the happy stories don't end after the cameras stop rolling. Like they actually
made
a difference.
Happy,
and
mostly.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your number 2 show of the year then?
The Haunting of Hill House, for all the reasons that
waited one more.
For all the reasons that Nick just said, plus I like overall I think I'd have to put it so high because I think it has, like, if I was make top 5 best episodes of the year, this show alone has 2 of the best episodes of the year in it. So it's like that's so high. And then everything Nick said, I think like as a horror show, it's good. It's not like the most amazing horror show, but the element that makes it so great is that it's a fantastic family drama with really well acted characters and really well written characters that have this. Each of them have this drama and dilemma to them that they eventually bring them together and have them basically yell at one another for an hour straight in an episode that's basically a stage play, and it's absolutely fantastic. And then you mix in all the horror, supernatural elements, all that sort of stuff. That's great. I like horror movies and whatever else, but it is honestly the drama that made this show so good.
There's also a lot of stuff you can miss in there as well, because I've seen a lot of articles afterwards of so much stuff through the show pointed out that I hadn't missed.
Most of the ghosts you
noticing.
don't even see unless you,
Yeah.
if you blink. That's the thing that, like, unlike most stuff, they don't make a fact to show you all the ghosts. A lot of time the ghosts are in the background or something, or they're there for like 2 seconds. But if you blink, you miss them. Like a lot of factors, even the fact in that episode 6.
Even when they're pointed out, like they're so obvious once they've been pointed out that they're there. But when you're watching the show, you miss it completely.
Yep. Even like the statues in the back of episode 6, which change positions every time the camera goes past them. Such little detail into a lot of it. Very.
They're the angels.
Mechanically, especially with that episode, but even other episodes, I think a lot of work went into cinematography and stuff for the majority of the episodes, particularly episode 6, which has 2 very long one-shots though, of course. But even other episodes, I think, are really well shot and stuff. And Mike Flanagan has kind of proven himself to be one of the great, at the moment, horror directors, especially like last year, Gerald's Game, which is also a horror movie. But if you want to compare it to this TV show as well, when it comes down to it, is about a woman dealing with like drama, like drama between her and her husband. So that's what the backbone of that movie is, even though it's a horror movie. So it kind of seems
a lot
to be
of the same actors as well.
Yeah. How do you feel else?
My number 2 is The Good Place. I've talked about it on this show a lot. It's brilliant. It's one of the most creative things currently airing on television. I never know where an episode is going to go or where they're going to head to next. It constantly surprises me. Everybody in this show is so funny and so good. Kristen Bell just she's the heart of the show. She's the glue that keeps everything together. Ted Danson doing some of the best work of his career. Darcy Camden put in probably an Emmy-worthy performance. Just a couple episodes. The last episode of the season, Janet's, where she pretty much plays every other character for.
Oh, was that the last episode?
No, like the last episode of this year.
Before the break. Yeah.
Yep. William Jackson Harper is brilliant as Chidi, just a mumbling mess at times. I find so amusing. Jamila Jamil is really good as the Tahani, just stuck up philanthropist. And then Manny Jacinto as Jason Mendoza just makes me laugh all the time with his crazy anecdotes and naiveness of pretty much everything. So yeah, Good Place. If you haven't watched it, you need to watch it.
Sorry, Ash.
Need to.
Sorry.
You really don't have any excuse because it's on Netflix.
Sorry.
You got no excuse.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
But Dylan, what's your number 1 show for 2018?
My number 1 show of 2018 is Better Call Saul, season 4. I've always had Better Call Saul on my top 10 list every year. This is the first time it's reached number 1, and that's because I think season 4 is the best season of the show. It's seeing Jimmy in season 4. It's basically where it's the season where you get to see him go from Jimmy McGill to Saul Goodman. And as far as I'm concerned, he's Saul Goodman at the end of the show. That's full stop. He isn't in his law office. He isn't actually doing stuff anymore. He isn't actually doing all that stuff that we see him doing in Breaking Bad, of course, of which Better Call Saul is a spin-off show from, a prequel series of sorts. But by the end of this series, spoilers, I suppose, but he is Saul Goodman. And his journey from Jimmy McGill, which is a character that's a lot easier to like, and that's the saddest thing about this series, is that Jimmy is a likable character. He has problems. He gets fucked over a lot, and it's really sad, and you're really kind of rooting for him. But the character you know from the character you know from Breaking Bad, Saul Goodman, is an arsehole, is only out for himself, just anything for money, top dollar. He is an absolute jerk, and it's not a character that from Breaking Bad that I was like, oh, what a cool character. Yeah, really like that character. Like, he was an interesting presence always on the show. But my favorite thing with Better Call Saul is they did take that character and make him into something so much more special that I wouldn't have thought they could do when they announced the show initially. And I think season 4 is the culmination where you get to see them pull it off the best. There are other elements, seeing Jimmy's relationship with Kim throughout this whole season, and that kind of crumble in different ways as Jimmy kind of falls to the wayside back into some of his bad habits, is terrible to watch. And there's even one episode that has a fucking fantastic montage of them like in front of the mirror and seeing what they're doing on different sides, and they're kind of just drifting away. That's amazing. And then you also get to see Mike in this series dive further into the underworld with Gus Fring, and you get to see how he becomes so much closer to his right-hand man, of which we know him in Breaking Bad as well. This season has the most to do with Breaking Bad, but I don't think that's any at all reason why it's the best season. I think that's just a coincidence, and it is more about seeing Jimmy McGill and his story to becoming Saul Goodman. And the last episode, Winner, is fantastic. Start to finish, it's up there in my top 5 episodes of the year as well. Absolutely fantastic. The way it ends just crushed me, even though I don't know if that's what they was aiming to do. I'm sure it is, but it was just like, fuck. Like, I know what's happened right there. Oh, that's terrible. Please give me season 5 now. Like, what's going to... just give it to me. So, yeah, Better Call Saul. It was also the only show that after they do a spin-off, they do a podcast where they, Vince Gilligan and the rest of the creators of the show, they put out a podcast after each episode where they talk about behind the scenes, have some people on it and this sort of thing. So as soon as I finished each episode, I'd be like, where's the podcast? Let me download it. Let me listen to it. I need some behind the scenes information, especially because it's such a well-shot show. They do a lot of really cool, like, montages and long takes and all sorts of things. So, and even just character decisions. It's such an interesting show to me, behind the scenes and in front, just to find out more about. So, Better Call Saul, season 4, my favorite show to you.
Coincidence, A Good Place also has a podcast with the writers and that after. Hosted by Mark Evan Jackson.
There you go.
Yeah. So my number 1 show of this year also got cancelled. But then was miraculously picked up 24 hours later. It was Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It just makes me so happy. It's just so good. I just love all the characters. Just obviously after 5 seasons, you just love watching. You'd just be happy to watch them do pretty much anything. They continue to push the boundaries of what they can do. Rosa came out as bisexual this season. They also did an episode where she's in an active shooter situation, and the rest of the squad is sort of helpless, and they're sort of showing how they deal with not being able to help their friend, which I thought was really interesting. And then they had The Box, which is one of my favorite episodes of television this year, where it's pretty much just an interrogation with Andy Samberg, and Andre Barrow and Sterling K. Brown. I mean, what more could you want? Yeah. And then Jake and Amy got married, and everybody's happy. Just feel good television. Just, you need that in the world that we live at the moment. So, Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
We've got Queer Eye.
Right.
We don't need Brooklyn.
There's never enough feel good.
Okay.
Never enough.
Okay.
All right. Let's move into our top 10 movies of the year. Nick, do you want to kick us off with the first of your top 5 films of the year?
Avengers Infinity War. I really, really enjoyed this movie. I mean, I guess that goes to say with everyone on this list, because I wouldn't be here if I didn't. But I think just the culmination and the build-up of the past 10 years and it finally climaxing to this point just overcame emotions, and just the payoff I got from it, I just really, really liked.
Cool.
It was thoroughly entertaining.
It certainly was. Dylan, what's your number 10?
My number 10 is A Quiet Place, the John Krasinski directed and starring along with Emily Blunt and some cool kids, literally. Movie about where some sort of aliens invade the planet and you can't talk or they'll fucking appear out of nowhere and hunt you down and kill you. It's an interesting premise. They do some interesting things throughout the movie. I thought for the majority of it was really tense and interesting. I like the fact that what's her name, Millicent Simmons was actually a deaf actress playing that character. So and her scenes when it was from her POV in the movie that was already super fucking quiet, her scenes were literally just deaf, straight up just nothingness, and that was also really, really cool way to do the movie. It proved John Krasinski could direct well, like this genre and everything, so that was also really interesting. Emily Blunt is a powerhouse throughout it, I found. The only problems I really had were in the last act of the movie. That's where I had some problems with the movie, but I'm not going to let that ruin the overall experience I had with it, just because I had some problems with that. And looking back on 2018, it was still probably one of my favorite movie going experiences, because I actually had a good cinema experience with this, where the people I was in were all willing to shut the fuck up and just everyone be quiet. And it was kind of funny at the same time, whenever there would be a little bit of noise at some places and someone would be like crumble something so quietly and everything. But it was in the cinema. I feel like it was such a great experience. Definitely something I'm glad I saw in the cinema, not at home. Even though I was scared to see it in the cinema at first because of the movie it was. Yeah, a quiet place.
Yep, good movie.
My number 10 is Set It Up. The Netflix romantic comedy. This just charmed the pants off me. It's so charming.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know. Zoe Deutsch, Glenn Powell, just incredible chemistry. I think probably my favorite pairing of the year. And yeah, everybody in this is just really good. Just there's even when it goes like insane, guy peeing in an elevator, it's still not too quirky or crazy. Taye Diggs plays an over the top boss guy who throws temper tantrums and all kinds of stuff, and he plays a good sort of antagonist, I guess you'd sort of, in the end, I guess, sort of antagonist. Lucy Liu, really good in this as well. There's just so many scenes that I just go back and watch. Just from when they go to the party towards the end of the engagement party towards the end of the film, and then right up to that pizza scene, which I think is, I just want somebody to love me like that. All right, let's move on from my depressive moment. Dylan, what was your number 9?
My number 9 was Mission Impossible Fallout, the latest entry in a long-running franchise of which you'd think would be heading towards being bad, but they've taken a swing in the last 3 films, and they're kind of just done better and better, or at least all the same quality. They're all great. Each movie, Tom Cruise is eventually going to run out of ways to risk his life doing crazy stunts for the sake of this franchise. This movie is not that, although he does so many things in this movie. I'm like, why? I remember watching the motorcycle chase scene where he's going around that fucking roundabout the wrong way without a helmet on. I'm like, why? Is this necessary? Like, CGI exists. Why do we have to do this, Mr. Cruise? Why are you doing this? Henry Cavill, of course, is in it. He's really, really great. You get the lock and load and reload your arms scene and meme, which is great as well. And then you get the usual cast of characters, Ving Rhames and Simon Pegg in this one once again, which I feel like having those around Tom Cruise in these Mission Impossible movies kind of is part of what's made them so great the last few, is because the action has been really good and the stories have been great and everything, but having him have a constant cast of characters, especially with someone as likable as Simon Pegg, and they have a really back and forth great chemistry. Rebecca Ferguson, I'm glad she returned for this one because I really, really loved her in the last one as well, and she's great in this once again. And then having Sean Harris return as the villain was also an interesting turn I felt for this one that paid off mostly because it's the first time a Mission Impossible movie's had such a direct connection to the prior movie, to the point that if you couldn't remember the plot, you may be like, what the fuck is going on? I don't really understand anything. But for someone who liked the last movie so much and obviously could remember the plot, it paid off for me because I enjoyed everything about this movie. Really great. And 2.5 hours of just basically non-stop fucking great action.
Cool. My number 9 is A Simple Favor. We started talking about it earlier in the year, watching the trailers, which made no sense at all. Didn't know what it was going to be about, what it was. I really love this. Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick have such good back and forth in this film. Henry Goldman again shows up after his turn in Crazy Rich Asians and does a great, solid job. But yeah, it's just a fun sort of thriller comedy thing. I don't know exactly how to describe it. It's a satire, really, of that whole thriller femme fatale genre. Yeah, I enjoyed all the twists and turns and the one-liners and jokes. Yeah, so Simple Favor. Nick, what was the next film on your list?
3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Which is, I guess, technically a last year film, but it come out this year in Australia.
The rules are
Yeah.
if it came out in Australia this year, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
They're your rules, mate.
It's Australian
And
rules.
evidently mine too.
Australian rules. Football.
Yeah, it was really, really good. I enjoy the director, I enjoyed all the actors and actresses. Frances McDormand, is that her name?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, she was really good. She was displaying the full range of emotions in her acting, rage, sadness, everything. The story gripped me. Sam Rockwell's character was really good. I think it was shot great and just had me intrigued the whole way through.
Dylan, what was your number 8?
My number 8 is the Greg Berlanti directed film Love, Simon, which, if you didn't know about and you watch Riverdale, got promoted in a really weird episode in that. That was quite funny. But Love, Simon is about Simon, who's gay, and he's keeping that as a secret. And then he starts having a kind of pen pal relationship, emailing someone, doesn't know who they are. Someone in his school then finds his emails and basically blackmails him and starts fucking up his life. And it's overall, I mean, it's just a simple coming of age story, a lot of which we've seen before, but I feel like it does a genre that I've seen many, many times done before, but it's more interesting, at least fresh, to see it from the perspective of a gay guy instead of where the usual kind of rom-com movie this would be your 80s. The 80s did heaps of movies like this, but they were all, of course, about straight people, and I think Chucking on Edge, tackling the gay story, was really, really interesting. Josh Duhamel and Jennifer Garner are also great in this. Catherine Langford is also really great in this as his BFFF. But there's also one scene, Josh Duhamel, I just love in this movie because he's like a baseball whatever dude in like high school. They explain everything like this, but he's like such the emotional dad and like struggling how to, especially once his son comes out as gay later in the movie. It's like, I'll get on Grindr with you. We'll do that. We'll. It's like struggling what to do. Yeah, it's quite funny. It's a really heartwarming story that has also a really fantastic soundtrack and great. I loved it. Saw it in cinema. Loved watching it at home since. Feel good movie, I feel.
Cool. My number 8 is A Star Is Born, the Lady Gaga Bradley Cooper film. I think this is on this list purely for that first concert scene where she sings, which just gave me. I think it's the only film that I watched this year that gave me goosebumps. That's the only scene. Just incredible. Just and the story around it is still very, very good. Lady Gaga is going to get Oscar buzz, undoubtedly. I still listen to Shallow. A lot of the songs on the soundtrack are really good, at least from the first half of the film. I'm not as much of a fan of the poppy stuff towards the end of the film. Yeah, it's a really good story. Bradley Cooper does a really good job, and yeah, lots to like about it. Dylan, what's your number 7?
My number 7 is the comedy starring Leslie Mann, John Cena, and that other dude whose name I've forgotten, didn't have it open in front of me. I'm sorry. So,
Ike Barinthal,
thank you,
because
Ike
guess
Barinthal,
what?
Thank you. Is this your number 7 as well?
This is my number 7 too.
Holy fucking shit.
And what's that movie?
The movie is Blockers. Which I saw every time I saw a trailer for it, I was like, yeah, this looks like your kind of normal, typical. It'll be a fun comedy. I'm sure it won't hold much water or ground for repeat viewings, which is what I find for most comedies of this type, because it just looked like your typical teen comedy. I think it's much more. I think it's it's a really fucking great comedy. It has many hilarious scenes, including John Cena trying to butt chug beer up his ass, which is very funny. And then another scene where they're trying to break into a house where people are walking around naked. That's also quite funny. So it has lots of your typical teen comedy stuff, but I think like underneath it has this story that they like. Kay Cannon directs it really well and has like a lot of feminist ideals into the story and the plot that I feel like was refreshing for the genre. The fact that the story follows around girls instead of guys was refreshing, and when they take that angle and what they do with it, it is really, really great. And I feel like it was the perfect blend of being like, hey, we can do this story. It doesn't have to be like American Pie-esque or like that type of stuff. It's same sort of genre, but we're doing it a little bit different. And it's just as funny, just as entertaining, with an absolutely fantastic cast. Like, all of the girls are great. All of their parents are fucking great. And I've watched it 3 times this year, and I could probably watch it again today and still laugh. So definitely my favorite comedy of the year as Blockers. How about you, Ash?
Yeah, I was really surprised by this film. I thought it was just going to be all about the parents and the crazy hijinks they get into, but the kids like sort of steal the show.
Yeah.
Like, they're really funny, as well as like being really emotional resident story, really progressive story, and very much a tonal shift to what we probably saw in these kind of films when we were growing up. So yeah, and all those kids are going to be big. Special Geraldine from Australia. She's going places. So Dylan, what's your number 6?
My number 6 is Annihilation, the Alex Garland directed and written by a film based on the novel. I know there's more than one. Starring Natalie Portman, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Tessa Thompson, Benedict Wong, and a bunch of other people as well. Oscar Isaac, of course, is in the movie as well. Hardcore sci-fi as fuck movie, I guess is the way to describe it if you haven't seen it. It's horror-esque, I guess, at times. It does have some scary creatures, because basically the plot is there's this giant field, or like a globe barricade type mystical thing that's like covered this area in America somewhere, and every time the American government and the army sends in people in there, they just either disappear, or weird stuff happens or whatever. And Natalie Portman and her team go in there because her husband has come out, Oscar Isaac, but he's infected. He doesn't really know what's going on, so she goes in to try and discover what's happening in there, try and find a way to help him. And inside, it's the most beautifully weird sci-fi fantasy movie of the year for sure. I think, like, the design of the creatures that take over are fantastic. The design of the overall world, and I can't say certain things about spoiling, but there's certain scenes that are just designed so wonderfully, and that's why I was so pissed off that I couldn't watch it in the cinema, and I still stand by that. I think we talked about this, or I talked about it for the first time early in the year, but I'm so annoyed that I couldn't watch this on a much bigger screen, because I feel like it definitely deserved to have been seen in a cinema. It looked great on my TV. It would look better on the cinema. But Annihilation, fantastic sci-fi film.
A running theme through this year, I think. So my number 6 is Widows, the Steve McQueen thriller, heist movie, just sensational all around. Incredible cast, everybody doing top shelf work. Just good twists and turns, good narrative. Elizabeth Debicki is probably a standout performer, as well as Daniel Kaluuya, who is freaking incredible in this film. But he's given the best role. He's given the opportunity. He plays like the Anton Chigurh sort of role. This film, a sort of force of nature. Yeah, you need to see Widows. It's really incredible. Yeah, just Steve McQueen. He knows, and it's just shot really well as well. I don't know if you've heard about this current Colin Farrell one shot.
No,
where the camera moves to focus on his car, and he has a conversation in his car, and he drives from the poor section of town into the rich section of town, and it just follows the car the whole entire way. So, yeah, it's really good.
Watch it.
Just some interesting choices and that sort of thing, and there's a bunch of incredible actors. It's just across the board, really, really great.
I went to rent it recently, but it wasn't out, and I was sad. So,
yeah, soon.
Yeah, soon.
Nick, why don't you hit us with your next entry in your top 5?
Mine is the S. Craig Zahler written and directed film Brawl in Cell Block 99.
What is Brawl in Cell Block 99?
Brawl in Cell Block 99 is a grindhouse film, really, essentially, but very high production. It stars Vince Vaughn, Jennifer Carpenter, Don Johnson is in there towards the end. All the acting, I think, was great. Vince Vaughn comes into his own as a dramatic actor in this one, I find. And it's just filled with gratuitous violence, really.
Yep.
It's, yeah.
Yep.
It's fantastic. I
It's
guess
a Nick
Craig
movie.
Zala is becoming, as I said in a previous episode, one of my favourite writers, directors, authors. He's just fantastic.
Dylan, what's your number 5 film this year?
My number 5 is the Oscar award-winning Best Picture from last year, The Shape of Water, directed by Guillermo del Toro, and stars the amazing Sally Hawkins in this fantasy, horror, romance movie.
Hellboy prequel.
Yeah, no, but everyone thought it was a Hellboy prequel. It's such an interesting movie. It's such a unique movie from like every decision. It's also such a beautiful movie from the way it was shot to the story it's trying to tell, and it really is just this, much like Pan's Labyrinth, which is the film I could compare it the most to. It is a fantasy film. It feels like like your typical kind of children's book fantasy film, but the adult version, which is what Pan's Labyrinth kind of felt like. And it's this monster, but the monster isn't the bad guy. Surrounded by terrible things, times, period, events happening, characters, of which the most evil one is, of course, a human. And amazing performances, amazing story, direction, art design, soundtrack, score. Beautiful movie. Wonderful. I had no problems when it won. I was fucking surprised when it won Best Picture, but to be I'm still like, really? Like, the Oscar gave it to that, but the Oscars gave it to that, but yeah. Shape of Water.
Cool. My number 5 was also up for the Academy Award this year. Lady Bird, starring Saoirse Ronan and Laurie Metcalf. Just an amazing coming-of-age story, and a story about a mother-daughter relationship. I just keep going back to those different scenes where they're sort of just trying to connect.
When she jumps out of the car.
Where she jumps out of the car. And when they're trying on dresses and just all these moments, I guess, and just sort of exploring how you don't necessarily have to like somebody that you love, I guess. And then for her to appreciate where her mother came from, sort of in the end. I mean, that kitchen sink, the scene where the mother's clean the dishes at the end, just breaks me every time I see it. And yeah, or when they're driving at the airport, just brilliant. Yeah. Dylan, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is the Marvel movie on my list. It is Black Panther, the best Marvel movie of the year. And Black Panther is, well, I mean, it is my favorite. I think it is the best Marvel movie overall because it has the most unique feel. I think it's the best designed, written, acted, like the culmination of everything. But the reason it stands out so high on my list is because until what's his face? What is until Martin Freeman showed up in this movie, I forgot I was kind of watching a Marvel movie because I was so wrapped in this world I was being presented with. It was so, Wakanda was so far away from everything else that was kind of happening in Marvel. It didn't look like anything else. All of the characters were great and fun and exciting, and the villain in this is one of the best villains because you can side with him to a degree. You understand why he's angry, why he is where he wants, what he wants from the world. And it's not just, I want to take over the world or, destroy it, or your typical kind of comic book villain stuff. It is a very small story about family when it comes down to it. And it also has some really great action scenes, a fantastic score with the use of some of the songs from the Black Panther soundtrack, of course. Overall, absolutely love it. It's such a beautiful world. I want an art book for it, the costume design, everything. Fantastic.
Yeah, this was also my number 4.
Fucking hell, Ash.
I know.
Twins?
You're the
I
same
know.
people.
Yeah, funny. Yeah, this incredible to take a character that honestly not many people had a history with and make one of the best films of the year, one of the most interesting films of the year, one of the most meaningful films of the year for a lot of people. Pretty incredible. Again, Michael B. Jordan just sort of steals the show, kind of. Yeah. But there's a great sort of supporting cast. Shuri is brilliant. The I can't remember the character's name, the protector woman. She's interesting as well. And then the gorilla guy. From the other tribe. He's really good too.
Mumbak, whatever his name.
Yeah.
M'Baku.
Just that scene where he shows up the first time.
Yeah.
M'Baku. Yes. Yeah. And it gave us that video where the kid reenacted that scene. So nothing else. Yeah, Black Panther. Nick, do you want to give us your next film in your top 5?
It is Hereditary, the horror film. Yep, the horror film. Yeah, that's right.
The horror film.
The horror film.
The horror film.
As opposed to Hereditary, the children drama.
I actually... This is one of my most unexpected films of the year. Like, I really had no idea what was going into it, and it just constantly managed to subvert my expectations, and it gave me a genuine oh shit scene. Like, I can't believe they actually fucking did that, and just the way it slowly ramps up to what it becomes in the end, I think is just masterful in the way that it told its story, and all the acting was fantastic, and you didn't know what was coming or what was happening, and oh yeah, I just loved it. I think it's honestly one of my favourite horror films of all time.
Good lord. I'll jump in because Hereditary is number 3 on my list. So
what? Oh yeah, that's right.
Ash is like, it is on mine. No.
No.
Imagine that. So everything Nick said, it's such a unnerving experience, Hereditary, from start to finish. And it's like not even a normal horror movie. It does contain some normal horror movie elements, but the most unnerving scene for me in the whole movie, and I say unnerving compared to shocking because the scene I'm pretty sure Nick's talking about is the most shocking. Like, you're just not really expecting it, and it just happens, and you're like, fuck that, and then you just kind of want to hide, like it's absolutely terrible. But the most unnerving scene for me that just made me feel like I wanted to cover my eyes, I hated it, and it was stressing me the fuck out, was simply the scene where Toni Collette was arguing with her son at the kitchen table, and there's nothing horror about it. In fact, that's just part of because this movie, kind of like our top 10 TV shows, a lot of the elements that are tied in with the horror stuff come down to family drama, and that's kind of like the backbone for this as well, amongst other things. But there was a scene where Toni Collette and her son are just arguing at this kitchen table and just yelling and stuff, and I just was the most, like, I don't want to watch this. It's kind of like, you know, when like family members or anyone, you don't want to watch people like argue like that, and it was just like, this is fucking, I just wanted to turn it off, but I was in the cinema at that point. But Toni Collette in this is absolutely fucking amazing, and she deserves an Oscar nomination for sure for this. If she doesn't get one, I will be pissed off quite a little bit. But yeah, the film just ramps up and ramps up, and you have no idea where it's going. You have no idea if what the characters believe is true or if what you believe is true. And by the time you get to the final act, I know a lot of people have problems with it. I don't. I like it. I like how I didn't know it was going there, and then it went there and it committed to it, and I'm like, fuck yeah, okay, we went from A to B somehow here, but I'm on board, sure. And Ari Aster, the director of this, is now someone, whenever the trailer for their next movie is announced, I'm on board. Like, you've won me.
And this is a fantastic, really first feature-length outing for him, because all he's done previously are just shorts.
Yeah, and it is, because it's a horror movie that isn't reliant on jump scares or any of the typical go-to stuff. It is such a well-directed movie. Like, from the way it even opens on like the dollhouse and then like zooming in, and it takes you into the real life scene. Like, it's such a well-put-together film from start to finish. Unnerving as fuck, but absolutely one of 2018's best films.
I just figured 3 things about our top 10 movies and TV shows have involved dollhouses somehow.
Well, there you go. Dun dun dun. What's it mean?
Dollhouses. The running theme of 2018.
Dollhouses.
My number 3 film is Avengers Infinity War. It's just miraculous that it sort of came together the way it has. Probably, arguably, the most impressive thing of the film is that you care about Thanos as a character.
Yeah.
Or you
100%.
have feelings about Thanos at all. I think they built it. It's just built so perfectly. And then it had the balls to end the way it did.
Yep.
Even though we as people in the industry know there's going to be... It could stay that way. It will be remedied in the next film. For them to choose to leave it on sort of a cliffhanger like that is ballsy as hell, and I have to appreciate it. Yeah. So, yeah. Dylan, what's your number 2 film of the year?
My number 2 film of the year is the straight to Netflix Alphonse Cuarón directed film Roma, which was a very late addition to my list, but that's how good I think it is. So Alphonse Cuarón, I love, like, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, I think, is the best Harry Potter film, and he directed that. He also directed Children of Men, which I think is an absolutely fantastic movie. And then he did Gravity as well. And a lot of these movies, of course, if you tie together a lot of elements, are big, sci-fi, special effects, heavy, gravitas movies. They've got, and especially like Gravity, his last 2 films, Gravity and Children of Men, both have like big kind of gimmicky stuff in them, I guess. Like they're very one shots and these high sci-fi elements, and Gravity is like one, floating around in space. And I don't think that movie was as good outside the cinema. Like, I liked Gravity when I watched it in the cinema, but then when I watched it at home, I'm like, it doesn't really hold up. It's more of a, like, if you watch it in the cinema, it's an experience, but at home, it's fine. Roma is the most bare bones, just like, it's basically like a memoir, I guess, is how he kind of describes it, because it's based on his real life. It's based on him and his family, and the main character is his what the fuck is the right word for it? It's servant. Yeah, servant. It's his servant, the maid or whatever, however you want to put it, for his family growing up. She's the main character of this film, and there's nothing huge or great about it. It's just based on his life, and like it kind of covers a year, and it's based on her life, I guess, covers a year, and it shows you Mexico and where he kind of grew up in that time period, and it's beautifully shot. He also shot it himself. It's the first film where he's acted as cinematographer as well, and a lot of decisions he make odd, I guess. The camera moves weirdly at times, and I think you can kind of go, that's because he doesn't really have the experience as a cinematographer, but at the same time it pays off because of how intimate the movie is as just like a family drama, and that's all it is a family drama. But it also it has one scene in it that absolutely shook me, and I was crying a lot, and it was just shook me to the core, and I've never seen a movie do such an intense, sad scene, and I don't really want to spoil it, but it is an intense, absolutely sad scene that this movie pulls off, and it is done in one shot, of course, which adds to it somewhat. But it's a absolutely beautiful film, just looking inside someone's home and their history, and he presents it fantastically. It's acted amazingly, start to finish. I really didn't think I'd like it as much as I did, but it is fantastic.
What language is it in?
Mexico?
Spanish.
Yeah,
Spanish. Okay, my number 2 is Mission Impossible Fallout. I think it's an incredible cinematic experience that you need to be in the cinema to see, because just to appreciate what they do. Chris McQuarrie has Frankenstein an incredible movie together because they went into it with no script. All they had was the basic idea of the stunts that Tom Cruise wanted to risk his life doing.
That's all you need.
Yeah, and I mean, Henry Cavill got the opportunity to show his acting chops, I feel like. He's not just Superman. That mustache was very impressive. And and I just, yeah, the action scenes in this are incredible. Just from the fight scene in that bathroom, which was insane, the halo jump, the stuff involving the helicopter at the ends, just incredible. Incredible.
I wish I'd seen it in IMAX.
Right.
I'm so annoyed I couldn't watch it in IMAX, or don't have an IMAX.
Yeah,
space.
that would have been cool. Nick, what was your last film in your top 5?
The unequivocal top film of the year is The Death of Stalin. It is at its core, it's a comic book adaptation, but it's also, it takes place in the 1950s when Stalin died and his inner circle basically fight each other for power, and it portrays the absurdness of Stalinist Russia. All the actors in it are top notch, fantastic. It's like they were just let act and they just captured whatever happened. The writing was sharp. The shooting, it was beautiful. Like, the comedy was fantastic. It's just, as I said when I first talked about it earlier in the year, it's a film made for me. Like, it's like, yeah, got my name written all over it.
It certainly does.
Fantastic film. And it is also, the time period is sped up for the sake of the movie, but what actually happened is very historically accurate to what actually happened as well, to the best we know it.
Yeah, Dylan, you and me have both watched this recently. Do you think it's one of the best films of the year?
No, because it's not on my top 10. But it's good. I quite enjoyed it. I think that Nick's interest more in the period and real life people and all that sort of stuff kind of elevates it more for him than it did for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a fan of the writer director Armando however you say his fucking last name, Jesus Christ. Yeah, like I really like the TV show, what's it called? The one,
The Thick of It.
The Thick of It. Yeah, I'm a big fan of The Thick of It, and I really like Veep as well, which he was doing until recently. So I'm a fan of his writing and his political comedy stuff, which that's kind of what he does, political comedy. But yeah, I think I liked it. I laughed at times. The characters, like Steve Buscemi in this, is probably the best Steve Buscemi's been in some time for me personally. So I quite enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a good time as well. I think, and I definitely think it's a Nick film. Just all the Russian. Yeah. All right. So, Dylan, what's your number one film of 2018?
Paddington 2. The best film.
Bullshit! That was a 2017 film.
No. Came out.
Fine. Whatever. It's your list.
I'm going by the Explosion Network dates of which we decided for what was legal. Were you going to tell me off? You want to tell me off?
No, it's fine.
Change it?
It's only
No, it's
Ashley's
fine.
show, just whatever.
No, it's only, yeah. It's fine. Fine. I mean, it came out Boxing Day 2017, but whatever.
Yeah. And our rule was December 13th to
It's fine.
December.
I'll only let it pass because it is Paddington 2.
Okay. Well, thank you. Paddington 2 is the perfect, feel-good, all ages family film. Written amazingly, directed amazingly. The special effects and everything, of course, are great. But Paddington is just such a great character. The comedy, Paul King has kind of opened himself up here because I feel like he's, he started doing the Mighty Boosh and everything where they got to experiment and do these really weird scenes and stuff in that show, which you can see carry over into the Paddington movies. I feel especially when they do like the scrapbook walking around showing his auntie or whatever. Here's at one point they're like showing her around. Yeah. It's like that stuff. You can kind of see his Mighty Boosh influences and stuff like that here. But then overall, it's just, there's nothing wrong with it. It is basically the perfect movie. And I don't mean like perfect family movie. I just is a perfect movie. Hugh Grant's in it. And he's my favorite role of his overall is now him in this as the villain. He's absolutely great. Also, the cast of characters you meet throughout the prison, they're all absolutely fantastic as well, including what's his face who plays Mad Eye Moody,
Brendan Gleeson.
Yeah, Brendan Gleeson as the chef, and then Paddington
as Knuckles.
Knuckles, and he teaches him how to make marmalade, and they make a bunch of marmalade sandwiches and all sorts of stuff. It is just such a fun movie, and I could watch it over and over and over and have so much fun. It's great.
It's brilliant. It's pure joy put into cinema. Yeah. But yeah, 2017. My number one film of 2018 is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. The most accurate depiction of comic books in another medium. It is the culmination of all the Spider-Man stuff we've seen before. Finally get to see Miles Morales in the film. we get like 6-7 different Spider-Man throughout the film. It's just a love letter to Spider-Man, and it's just shot beautifully, animated beautifully in a different style to anything else we've ever seen before. It's got an amazing soundtrack as well. I've been listening to that soundtrack constantly. What's Up, Danger? I mean, come on. It's just got all these iconic moments and great, like the moment where Miles is fully suited up and jumps off that building, that leap of faith.
How many times have you seen it in cinema now?
I've seen it twice. I feel like I need to go again. You know, otherwise, then I can go to rehab after that. I mean, it's so good. Just everybody gets enough time to shine, and yeah, just one of the easily the best film of the year. And if you're a Spider-Man film fan and you haven't seen this film, you should be very disappointed in yourself. Cool. Well, that brings us to the end of our top 10 lists. So let's move on to what we end up watching this week. Dylan, what did we end up watching?
Mandy.
That's the title of it, but I'm still not sure what we end up watching.
You're a special one, Mandy. I, too, am a special one. Let us be so very special together.
So what you gonna do with that thing?
I'm going hunting.
So what you hunting?
It's crazy evil.
Yes, Mandy, the Panos Cosmatos film. In the Pacific Northwest in 1983, outsiders Red Miller and Mandy Bloom lead a loving and peaceful existence when their pine-scented haven is savagely destroyed by a cult led by sadistic Jeremiah Sand. Red is catapulted into a phantasmagoric journey filled with bloody vengeance and laced with deadly fire. So the trailer for this blew up earlier in the year. I remember we did a react for it. It looked interesting, to say the least. Nick, did you find Mandy interesting?
I get the same feeling after watching this as the same feeling I had after watching Heavy Metal. I had no idea what the fuck just happened, but I loved every minute of it.
Whoa! That's not what we expected.
Why is that?
I don't know. You tweeted out that was something.
It was. And I also fell asleep during the movie.
Yeah.
Do you have a mini review or what?
No, I don't.
Oh, of course not. Dylan, did you love it as much as Nick did?
I liked it. I wouldn't say I loved it. It's definitely it's less a movie and more of an experience. And you can, that's kind of because the influences are very prominent, so obvious. The influences are basically heavy metal music and even like just the design of a lot of old school heavy metal album covers, to the point they have a shot of a tiger like roaring over a cliff at one stage that has nothing to do with anything. It's like, that looks heavy metal, man. Fuck yeah. Like, that's just a shot we're going to have in the movie. So yeah, overall, I think the movie is more about, it is just more a feeling, and
it's soul over substance.
Yeah. And not even a bad way, not even, that's a choice that was made for the movie. It is, the story is told more through the feeling that you're supposed to get, that's given to you from the image on screen, by the colors that are on there, by the overall mood that you kind of presented to you, rather than what's being said between characters or anything like that. Like, the film starts up and you're supposed to get to know this romance between Nicolas Cage's character and Mandy, and to understand that it's less about how they're interacting with each other and just more, it does try to present you several scenes of just, hey, they like each other, they're really in love, and the first half of this movie is definitely one movie, and then the second half is a second movie, and even the title card Mandy doesn't appear until the second half of the movie. So it's one movie but two distinctly different parts, and the second half cannot work without the first half. So yeah.
Thomas Wayne is very evil.
He is, yes.
Yeah. I
Actually
didn't like it. I didn't love it. I can appreciate it as a visual experience. They obviously went for style very much with all the reds and all the interesting title cards, the animations, all stuff throughout the film. But yeah, it just didn't do much for me. Even the fights at the end weren't super impressive in any way. They were just sort of... I mean, the chainsaw thing was pretty cool visually, but nothing...
I want to know what Nicolas Cage had against Slipknot.
Yeah, they do all look like Slipknot, yeah.
Yeah. I think there's probably a bunch of symbolism and that sort of stuff in this that with more analysis you could read into it. I think my initial thoughts was Jeremiah Sands was meant to be like the internet or something, like internet fanboys or something was the interpretation.
Nah,
like,
just a crazy hippie.
I'm everybody. I'm right. I deserve everything. That sort of thing. And then he gets mocked by one person and murders everybody.
I think it's just the same as any crazy person in that position of power.
Well, he
just happens to be Jesus freak.
As we move into spoilers, somewhat, I'll just put it out here. The scene where he puts on that soundtrack and everything, that's him. That's his song.
Yeah.
So he was like an ex rock star of some sort. So he had his 5 seconds of fame, and I think that kind of made him. I was really popular at one stage, and that's kind of just driven him to be this. I'm an idol. I'm a god. Listen to how great my music is. Yeah. I had my 5 seconds, probably one hit wonder type of character during that time period, and now he's just I'm so great. Also, now moving into spoiler stuff, there's a fan theory. There's a fan theory that makes sense. There's an after credit scene, right? Well, after credits, shot 5 seconds, and all it shows you after the credits roll is a bunch of drawings that look to be in Mandy's journal or one of those books, and all of the drawings are Nicolas Cage of a tiger and all these other sorts of things that happen throughout the movie. So then the fan theory is that the movie is actually just a book that she was writing, and that's why you get all these title cards and things like that throughout it, because they're chapter points.
Yeah, it can work.
Yeah. Or else people are why is that after credits scene just show you these drawings and stuff like that? I mean, it doesn't really matter because it doesn't affect the movie either way, because even if it is her writing a book, it's still the same sort of movie, which is just a stylistic thing more than about the story or the characters or anything.
It's a feeling as opposed to anything else.
Exactly. It's definitely a movie that's, feel this by the image on the screen rather than anything else. It's definitely interesting. I feel like you can't argue that it's unique. You can be I've seen that before. I've definitely seen a movie like this before.
No, you haven't seen this before.
Yeah.
I definitely haven't seen Nicolas Cage crying in his underwear for 20 minutes, 2 minutes while he's drinking vodka.
That was a great scene, I felt. That was a really great scene. It kind of showed Nicolas Cage go from A to 0 to 100, but then go back down, and because it was all in one shot, I feel like. But once again, it's that just shows him get into the mindset that he does. That leads into the last half of the movie, the revenge plot side point. Yeah. And they instead of spending a long time or having him speak out loud and yell and scream and be fuck them, they fucking kill it, which you'd usually get, they just do it. They go for his whole emotional spectrum in 2 minutes in one shot. That leads into I'm going to get revenge. Fuck them. And that's you get to see that happen without them over explaining to you that's what's happening.
Cool.
Yep.
Any last thoughts?
I'd definitely suggest watching it.
To everyone would probably get something out of this movie. That's for sure.
Yeah.
My one last comment is that advert that plays on TV when he walks back in was quite funny. About the cheese things, the cheese monster that was spewing up cheese on all the children.
Oh yeah, the cheese goblin. Made me want macaroni and cheese. Oh god. All right, that brings us to the end of this episode. What do you want to watch? Nick, where can people find you on Twitter and on Trakt.tv?
Lord and Prior, Prior.
Dylan, where can people find you on those two places?
Viva Ladil, Vivaladil.
And you can find me at Ashley Hobley, ASHLEYHOBLEY. And you can also follow the Explosion Network, which is a part of at Explosion Pod on Twitter. You can check us out on Twitch at twitch.tv/Explosion Network, or youtube.com/Explosion Network. And head over to explosionnetwork.com. You can find all our best of 2018 content, including us deep diving into the best of television this past week. And this coming week, if you're listening to this day of release, we're doing our top 10 movies and top 10 movies subcategories. Dylan's done incredible work putting this all together, so definitely check it out. You can also, if you want to talk to us about movies and stuff, head over to our Discord at explosionnetwork.com/Discord. If you've got any questions or suggestions, send us an email at mail@explosionnetwork.com. And if you really want to help us out, leave us a review either on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser. Or if you can't leave a review for whatever reason, you've already done one, just let somebody know. Just say they've just done their best of 2018 episode. If you need to know what the best of 2018 is, you need to listen to it. Just tell anybody and everybody.
Their best of 2018 episode is the best episode of 2019.
Certainly, well...
So far.
Okay. All right, thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much, you two, for being here. And until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.
I will.